Richard Piper.
Yeah. Well, I just think that we should take the opportunity to celebrate a huge victory for women's rights and for the LGBT community in the North as a result of the decriminalisation that took place and the changes vindicating the rights to marriage equality and decriminalising abortion, which took place despite the really just bizarre attempts of the dinosaurs, I mean there's no other way to describe them, of the DUP and elements in unionism to block the decriminalisation of abortion and the legalisation of gay marriage in the North. And that is a tribute to years and years of campaigning by people across the sectarian divide in the North, Catholic and Protestant and people of no religion, fighting against a political establishment that has not sought to vindicate those rights. And it's a real demonstration of what a real unity in this island can achieve, because it was, of course, that movement was significantly inspired by the repeal movement, by the marriage equality movement down here. And then you have the DUP, who don't seek to restore the Assembly to, I don't know, deal with social welfare cuts, poverty, the housing crisis, but then make this bizarre attempt to restore the Assembly in order to block equality for women in the LGBT community. And I think we should celebrate that tremendous victory. It's really a historic victory, despite the best efforts of the DUP, and it really does demonstrate what an odd bunch they are, and how out of touch they are with the new Ireland, North and South, Catholic and Protestant, that is emerging in this country. And it's something we should take hope and inspiration from.
Thanks very much, Deputies, for your questions. Over the past 2 years, there have been several intense attempts to re-establish the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement, Northern Ireland Assembly, Northern Ireland Executive, and of course the North-South Ministerial Council. North-South bodies continue to operate, as does the British-Irish Council, meeting regularly. We'll meet again in Dublin. I'll be hosting it in Dublin next month, and the BIIGC has been operating periodically as well. But those Strand 1 and Strand 2 bodies, the Assembly, the Executive and the North-South Ministerial Council, have not operated now for about 1,000 days. And there have been several intense attempts to get them going again. The Taoiseach has been particularly engaged in that work. Indeed, he'll be in Northern Ireland tomorrow again, having been there, I think, probably every week for the past 2 years. And obviously, I've done it at head of government level as well, both with Prime Minister May and with Prime Minister Johnson. But ultimately, the way Strand 1 works is that to have the Assembly and Executive functioning, you need the largest party of unionism and the largest party of nationalism on board. I need both of them on board at the same time. That regrettably hasn't been possible to date. We have come very close on occasion, particularly close in February of this year, and we're not going to give up. But it is complicated by, first of all, Brexit, and secondly, by the possibility of elections in Westminster, which may happen in the next couple of months. But we'll keep at it. Deputy Martin asked about the nature of the future relationship between the EU and the UK, including Ireland, and its impact on East-West trade. And there are lots of different published projections as to what things would look like in different scenarios, but they are only, well, there's the Australia ones as well, and there's, yeah, yeah, they're consistent, but they are only projections. What I'd say is this, is that if this current agreement gets through, we have certainty about North-South trade, that there won't be any tariffs on trade North-South, that there'll be no checks on trade North-South, but it doesn't give us certainty on East-West trade. That's really important for our economy, particularly the agri-food sector, but even beyond that, trade between Ireland and Britain is really important to our economy and really important to jobs. But I think the nature of that relationship, that trading relationship between the UK and the European Union is still to play for. There is a difference in stated policy between Prime Minister May and Prime Minister Johnson. Prime Minister May used to talk about having a trading relationship between the EU and the UK that was as close as possible. Prime Minister Johnson talks more about divergence, talks more about a Canada type arrangement? Not exactly, because the withdrawal agreement, which we had with Prime Minister May, provided for a temporary backstop as a bridge to a future relationship, but it didn't provide for a future relationship. So they want only in the backstop, which was to be temporary and never to be used and to be an insurance policy. There was a single customs territory. It's not the case that the UK government argued for, sought, or had in the Theresa May agreement a customs union. That's not correct. She actually actively opposed a customs union, in fact. However, we do have a new joint political declaration on the future relationship. That was agreed last week. Hopefully it will be agreed by the House of Commons when they're ready to do so. And in that new revised political declaration, we talk about having tariff-free and quota-free trade between the EU, including Ireland and the UK. And we also talk about there being a level playing field. And in my own conversations with Prime Minister Johnson, he's very much a free trader. He does want to have tariff-free, quota-free trade between Britain and Ireland and between the UK and the EU. So I think if we can get past this current phase, which is the withdrawal agreement phase, the future relationship in trading terms and economic terms between the EU, including Ireland and the UK, is all to play for. And one of the things that, if I have the privilege to continue to hold this office, that I want to negotiate in the next couple of years is that FTA with, of course, Commissioner Hogan and President von der Leyen, that future economic partnership, as they call it, FTA, whatever you want to call it, which would provide for tariff-free, quota-free trade between the UK and the European Union, with a level playing field on standards when it comes to environment, health and safety and labour rights. And I think that's an objective that actually is achievable. And that would be my objective if we get through this phase of Brexit. And I think one of the people who really put Brexit into perspective for me was Michael Noonan. And I remember him saying to me a week or two after the referendum, and he said that some people see Brexit as a severe weather event, a sort of storm that we need to weather and get through. And he said it's not that. Brexit isn't a storm or a severe weather event. It's a permanent change in the relationship between the UK and the EU, and therefore between Ireland and the EU. And it'll never end. This is just a phase. Okay. This phase is the withdrawal agreement phase, in which we want to protect citizens' rights, ensure a financial settlement that's fair, and make sure that we don't have a hard border between North and South. I believe we've achieved that if the House of Commons and the European Parliament ratify this agreement. But then we go on to the next phase, and that is negotiating the future economic relationship, that FTA with the UK. And it'll be my objective, if I'm negotiating it, to try to secure tariff-free, quota-free trade with a level playing field. And that's exactly the right thing for Irish business, for Irish jobs, and also for workers and health and safety standards and environmental standards. Just to finish up on the questions, we've had no, at least I've had no discussions with the UK government in the past 2 weeks on direct rule, but the government position on that is as it always has been.